So a quick note before we jump into this podcast. We recorded this about 6 weeks ago during a staff retreat. I pulled Joshua from our staff in to do this episode. You've never heard from Joshua before. This was his first podcast, but we were answering a question that had been sent to me from my friend Trent Horn, whom a lot of you are familiar with. He's a Catholic apologist, a pro-life apologist, one of the best pro-life minds in the pro-life movement. So he had sent in this question that we basically got to spend this whole episode talking about. What we did not realize, and some of you may know that yesterday, Trent and his wife Laura made a video sharing about Laura's recent brain cancer diagnosis, and that she will actually be having surgery for this the day before we release this podcast. So I just wanted to quickly to say, we care so much about them. We are praying and rooting for them here at ERI. We're going to link to the video of them kind of sharing about this. Please watch it. It's amazing, and you will love the interaction between them. Laura is so amazing, and you'll be able to tell that by watching this, just the way that she is. So watch it. We're also going to link to a prayer that they are asking people to pray for them. So if you're religious, please consider praying for them as well. We're rooting for them. But I just wanted to acknowledge that before we get into this episode that we recorded way before we knew that. So that's not going to get acknowledged in the discussion. But our team is going to be praying and rooting for Trent and Laura, and we would ask for you to be as well. And you can click the link in the description for more information about that. And now I hope you enjoy this admittedly niche, kind of nerdy conversation about music and how to possibly be a professional musician while also being a pro-life advocate at the same time. Well, welcome back to the Equipped for Life podcast, and I am here with a very special guest who has not yet been on this podcast, but has been a valuable member of our team for several years now. This is Joshua Head, who is our video editor and club coach, and welcome to the show. It is great to have you on. Joshua, you're from Colorado Springs. You've been doing work out there. Let's do a little bit of your story. Before we get into the awesome content, we should talk a little bit about your crazy St. Olaf history. So let's try to do this quickly, but for those who has been a while since they heard Emily talk about her time at St. Olaf, could you do kind of a really quick summary of what your pro-life activism was like in college and how we ended up being able to get to know each other kind of through that? Because you had a really cool role in that club, and you have a really cool role here that I want to be able to talk about before we get into this question that a listener sent that was so perfect for you that I had to get you on the podcast.
Well, thanks, Josh. First, I'm really excited to be here. It's actually a little bit surreal. I'm hearing your voice, and I'm feeling like I'm listening to the podcast. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, now I have to say something too. So
you do. It's going to be great. So it's going to be awesome. It's so exciting. Good to have you here.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. So yeah, I first ran into ERI when I was at St. Olaf. And actually, the one bragging point that I have against Emily is that I actually went through the Equipped for Life course first.
That's right. You're the one who got her to take it seriously.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I think I went through it. And then, we were just having coffee. And then I was like, Emily, this is life-changing. And she's basically yeah, I'm sure it's good, was kind of her attitude. And then she went through the course, and then you can kind of see what happened after that. So, right. But I it's my fun fact that it's well, actually, guys, I did go through it first. So that's the one bragging point that I can have against Emily.
And then convince the club leadership to basically make the club about that. And we're going to recruit with this, we're going to train with this, we're going to go do outreach based on this. And it just blew up from there.
Oh, yeah. And it definitely to Emily and Meredith's credit, that's when we kind of came together and we really kind of rallied around the material because we just found it to be super effective. And kind of what you were alluding to is that when I was at St. Olaf, after we had gone through the course and really started internalizing, the arguments and the way to talk to people, that's when we started seeing change happen on our campus. And something that I remember telling, people is that we had a display up, before we were doing the ERI style outreach, and it was torn down 13 different times. We had to keep putting it back up.
One of those hallway displays.
Yeah. So that was one that, that was just a lot of, angst. We still had some vandalism issues as time went on, but they definitely didn't happen as often.
Right.
And it wasn't to the same degree, I would say. Though some of them were, but anyway, it's just like it was definitely a turning point after we went through the course and we were actually talking and engaging with people. We just noticed a huge change, from just the overall campus attitude, just kind of as our time went on there. And what was cool was is that it works in multiple places. So like after I was graduated from St. Olaf, I actually went to Johns Hopkins for my master's.
Right. We did outreach together
so,
there
yeah,
too.
We did. Yeah. So and then I remember being really proud of my club members and friends that I basically took them through the Equip for Life course after I was done at St. Olaf.
Yeah.
And so it was nice having done the trial run, a couple of times. And I forget how many times I've taught the course at this point.
You clearly did a great job, because when I was at Johns Hopkins with you, like, you were proud of the students that you've been working with, and I was too, but I was particularly proud of you because you had now taken this club. This was not with Emily and Meredith's help or anything else. You had just taken everything that you learned and gone to a new place and like, now I'm going to take over this club and I'm going to teach them the good news about ERI and all the different things, the dialogue tips and all that stuff, and start doing that and watching you guys do that was a hard outreach. Mm-hmm. We had some difficult conversations that day and there was a lot going on, and the students that you had worked with just time and time and time again, I felt like we're handling it like as well as I probably would have, kind of a thing. Like, it was really, really impressive.
Well, I mean, also it's like they were really smart. Like, I mean, the people I was working with, they were like definitely.
Hopkins.
Well, yes. I mean, there's something too. I think. Yeah. Yeah.
That helped. Here's another thing I want to brag on you about. So going back to St. Olaf. So I remember, when we first met, the day that we met, all I had been told was I'm going to go and do outreach with this club that had been working with us. I knew that Tim and Rachel had visited previously, like a year or two prior, but I haven't really been told anything about this club. I show up, I'm watching you all do outreach. You were probably one of the first people that I saw like talking to someone, and I'm just sort of like listening in on everyone and just being like, I'm constantly amazed. I'm like, I can't believe how good that you're doing. And then pretty soon it's like, I just found like a chair in the back. Like, you guys can come debrief with me over there because you're doing so well. Like, let's just like figure this out over here, kind of a thing. And then I had lunch with Emily. And then that evening we had like dinner with the club. I got to hang out with the club and get to know you guys better. And I remember Emily describing, she was like, let me tell you about our different team, our people. She's describing Meredith, she's describing like these different people, and she described you. And there were two things that she said about you that I never forgot, and I've been bragging on you ever since, when I can tell people that, because this is so cool. She's like, and this is Joshua, and he has two roles in our club. One, he takes the new, like, the guys under his wing. Like, those were the words that, I would never say it that way. He's like, he takes the new guys who are like having to figure out how to be a good pro-life student on a college campus, a pretty hostile college campus that you guys were on. Like, how do we respond to the you're a man thing really well? Like, we're going to work on that. We're going to, like, all these different things that are kind of like focused on being a good guy pro-lifer. That was one of your roles that you'd come up with. And then secondly, you were contacting other clubs to tell them that they ought to do the Equip for Life course, and we're excited about that. And I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, if you're doing that, I need to hire you right now. All that to say, you were amazing helping run this club. And you've been on our team now for a couple of years. You helped me get Equip for Life Academy done, like a bunch of like the animated text, the B-roll that people see in that. A lot of that was placed meticulously by you. You've been helping coach the clubs because you're amazing at kind of helping our affiliate groups to kind of know how to handle different situations. Like, you're like really amazing at that. But those are not the reasons why we brought you on the podcast today. We brought you on this podcast because Trent Horn emailed me an email that one of his listeners or fans sent, and he was like, I think Josh Brown would be the guy, but I knew you would be the guy. So here's the email from, we're going to call this person Ruth. This is not her real name, just in case that she would care. But I'm just going to read her original email to Trent that he forwarded on to me. That is going to be our topic for today, which is basically, how can you handle, how do you carry both being a pro-life advocate, maybe even like you do a lot of like activism and stuff like that, and also doing professional music work at the same time. So Ruth emails Trent and says, "Hello, Trent. I am emailing you because I have a question to do with life as a pro-life advocate and have nobody in my life who fully understands. In an interview of yours, I was inspired when you said that the world needs somebody extremely successful in the arts or sciences to also be passionately pro-life. However, I am not sure that is possible anymore. I have found in the first year of my undergraduate degree in orchestral trumpet performance that your reputation can jeopardize opportunities to perform, even when you're not delving into the abortion issue. Because of this, I've started to think about quitting the trumpet. I'm getting more and more involved in pro-life activism, having just begun a 4-month contract with the Canadian Centre for Bioethical Reform, and I know it could spell disaster if word spreads about my activism. With that context in mind, do you think it's really possible to succeed in a field that hinges on reputation when you are pro-life?" So behind the scenes, Trent forwards me this email, is like, "You're a musician. You're probably the guy." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "I actually have a better guy for this." So I emailed you, and it's like, got this email. Like, this would be like a cool thing to like. I bet you and I would both have ideas. And Joshua, then you just on your own, I created a full outline. Like, you were like, all these ideas for this person. And it became clear to me, oh, this is not a good question for both of us to respond to. This is basically a question that Joshua is going to give this amazing response to, because we're in a kind of a different situation. Like, Trent knows that I had been offered an opportunity to be a professional musician. I had been offered a contract from a Nashville agent, basically, who had kind of discovered me and has sent me this contract, come be a full-time, performance recording keyboards guy. And at that point, I was deep enough into pro-life work. I was doing it professionally at this point. I knew I couldn't do both. And so I walked away from it. So I haven't really been doing professional music as a career. It's just something that I love to do on the side. You, however, are such a professional musician that you are, I brag on this all the time, you are playing in the Colorado Springs Star Wars concert, like the local Philharmonic Star Wars concert. Mm-hmm. You are one of the viola players for that. Mm-hmm. So you are extremely good at your craft. You are an expert level at your craft. You are actually professionally performing and teaching and doing all those things and working for us part-time. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of thoughts on how young people, especially younger people, I imagine, like students, this is the students that we're communicating with, can be professional musicians in spite of being involved in pro-life clubs.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I got the email from Josh, and I think it was something, the email subject line was like, can we take 15 minutes to maybe brainstorm before the next staff meeting? And then, of course, I agreed, but then, as Josh described, I mean, I just couldn't stop thinking about this question, because I was like, not only did I feel like I had some thoughts on it, but I also felt like that this was me too. I feel like that I've been in this sort of position before, and there were just several parts of Ruth's response that just kind of stuck out to me. And I think that the main points was one, it was first year undergrad was one point, orchestral trumpet was another one. And those two things, those just spurred a lot of thoughts. And then I can combine that not only with my own experience, but also what I'd been doing professionally since school. So I'm also happy to say, I think we got this email and I was like, okay, I really hope she's okay. We were actually able to meet on Zoom. And
that's a good point. Yeah, we responded quickly to this actual person, and you got a meeting with her, and I don't really know about how that went. I assume that went well.
Yeah. And I think
we knew this wouldn't necessarily get recorded super quickly or put out super quickly. It was kind of let's make sure we get this person help. But now that we have the ability to kind of let everyone else in on some of the advice, the not personal advice that you gave Ruth, I would love for everyone else to be able to hear about it, because I'm completely on the same page. I want there to be able to be professional musicians who are also pro-life, but in a post-Dobbs world, being pro-life is, I think pro-life people are more of a pariah now in society than they were before Dobbs got overturned, or frankly, before Trump got elected again. I think both of those things have kind of an optics PR impact on the way that pro-life people are seen or interpreted by a lot of people. Not everyone, obviously, but by a lot of people. And so it's a challenging time to be doing this. And yet your attitude is clearly not oh man, Ruth, you're going to have to choose. You're either going to be able to do pro-life stuff, or you can be like a professional trumpet player. And you're like, no, you can do both.
Yeah. So that's kind of my short answer is you can do both. And kind of my gut reaction right now to the question, we can dive into it in a little bit, is that it's like, well, music is still a job. Like there's still a way that you can be professional about it, and that there's like professional standards and like a way of doing things, especially in the type of the orchestral world that that I'm in right now, and that Ruth is aspiring to be in. Like that's different than some of the other scenes, like even the ones that you were describing that you could have moved forward with. They're just kind of a little bit of a different flavor. Right. So that's also another reason why when I got Ruth's email, I was like, oh yeah, this is my wheelhouse. Like orchestra stuff. I can talk about that all day, and I have sometimes. So
I was pretty much never planning on being in an orchestra. Like I knew I never was willing to practice enough to be technically proficient enough to be great at an orchestra. I'm so impressed with people like you that that are so good at your craft that you can just sit down and sight read music amazingly. Like that's incredible. I wish that I could do that. I can't do that, but that's really
and
cool.
Back to you, Josh. I'm sure that the skills you have are really built on improvisation, playing by ear, being able to just kind of pick a tune out of thin air. Like that's something that us on the music reading side usually like, what?
The grass is always greener, isn't it?
So, but I mean, I feel like there's definitely a skill in both of those areas that it's like very distinctive to that area. So, but
so what were some of the what like you think you kind of separated out into like two categories? You're like there's like this first year thing versus. What was the other thing?
Well, it's more of like when you're in school and then when you're in the real world.
Okay,
so I think that's kind of where some of the differences come from.
Interesting.
So, and that's probably what my advice to people generally would be. It would be, especially if you're in school, I would say that I have some advice. And then if you're in the professional world, I'd say that I'd have, some different advice a little bit. But I think that's where the big distinction comes. And that's, again, when I honed in on especially just the first year undergrad part, I was just thinking, okay, like she's probably a little overwhelmed just with, the whole college thing just in general. So, I mean, that's probably that plus all of the stressors of, maybe being a different social environment or something that she's in. So I could see where it's like, oh yeah, it might be a little bit of, shock a little bit, in addition to just feeling uncomfortable and like you're going to be ratted out if people find out this thing about you. So there were a couple of things, just especially thinking about the first year undergrad piece of it that I was thinking about. And I told her, first, I was like, make sure that you find people that share your values, and they don't necessarily have to be musicians. These are just people that whenever you have like a rough day or something, they're going to like make you feel okay. Like, and that's just really important, I think, to have for anyone, no matter what, kind of field that you're in, is like finding people that are really like core and important to you. So I'm really lucky that, at both St. Olaf and at Hopkins, I was able to find those people that I knew that I could be my authentic self around. And that was something that was really just grounding. And I think that helps a lot.
Yeah.
So
was there also an element there of like, you're hoping that like if you had like a really bad outreach day that you might be able to get like some encouragement or something from these people? Is that kind of a part of it? Like I kind of like what I'm getting from this is like you don't want to be isolated. Like don't like if you're already going to be, it feels isolating enough to be pro-life and a musician probably. So like have community around you, have some community that you can be really real with. Is there also kind of an aspect of that of kind of like, hey, can I tell you about this really horrible outreach day that I just had, like that kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, I would say that yes. I mean, just finding support in all the different places, I would say is definitely good. I was just trying to think back to like outreach specifically, just because I think whenever that happened, just finding another club member was something that I was able to have, good like debriefing with. And I mean, I know I was a little lucky, or maybe very lucky at St. Olaf, because it just so happened that there were also some other pro-life musicians it was a very, very small circle there. And so part of me is like, oh, well, I'd feel bad saying that because I know that not everybody has that. But when I was at
St. Olaf is a very music school, right? Like most of the people there are musicians, which is not the case at like Fresno State or Fresno City, for example, right? So there is kind of some overlap there where you got to kind of like do some of that encouragement stuff with the club. But so then what I hear is that you're looking for something different with this community. You're just kind of wanting to be able to be around people who are not necessarily musicians and they're not necessarily part of the pro-life club, but they are other people that you can be around and be kind of your authentic self with.
Yeah, I'd say that because like also like kind of what I was about to get to was like the people at Hopkins, none of them were musicians. Like from my really close friends,
right.
all of them were like the proper Hopkins students. So it's like, if you were going to say where my graduate degree was from, it's from the Peabody Institute of the Johns Hopkins University. It's the long way to say it. And it's such a mouthful to say.
What does that mean? What's the Peabody Institute?
Well, the Peabody Institute's just saying that that's the conservatory aspect of it. You could just refer to it as the Peabody Institute or the Peabody Conservatory. I'm not actually sure which one it is, and it wasn't helpful that at graduation on the back screen it said Peabody Institute, and then on the speaker podium it said Peabody Conservatory.
Oh, yeah, so, that's definitely.
So I don't actually know what it's called. I don't know where I went to school.
Yeah. They should work on this.
So, consistent branding, guys,
On the next SWOT analysis, they can be threat. No one knows what to call it.
Yeah, nobody knows what to call it. Yeah. So anyway, but I was in the Conservatory Institute, whatever. It was a couple miles south of the main campus. So it's still a part of the campus, is just a couple miles away. So I actually was very familiar with the bus schedules. I found myself actually running to catch the bus more times than I'd care to admit. But yeah, that's where I would, where my friends were. That's where I would go on the weekend and just kind of hang out with these people. And I just knew that I could, be my authentic self, which was, my musical identity. I was able to talk. It was nice because I could geek out about that and they'd find it interesting. They'd geek out about their stuff and I'd find that interesting too.
Yeah.
So there was some actually really interesting discussions that I've had just with the people that just live in a different world and they just kind of, have some different like day-to-day things like dealing with robots or reading law or something, and they find it fascinating. And I'm just like, wow, okay. Yeah. Some of these things I find interesting, but to find it like fascinating or amazing, maybe a little different. So I feel like I've been lucky in both cases. Like I've had some of the people that I could talk to that, were both musicians and pro-life, and then some people who were not musicians, but were either pro-life or, that I could talk to them about it.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
So that was something that was really good. A lot of these friends also shared my faith too, which was really important to me. So I found that was also another way that, I just found some shared values, and that just really grounded me, just amidst all of the college experience and stuff like that. So
what would be another tip that you would have for while they're in the college kind of life before going to the beyond college time?
Well, I'm so glad you asked, Josh, because I did have another thought here. So the other thing is, paying attention to the musician-specific identity. This is like just something that I, feel very passionately about, but it's like the other thing is you should find people that push you musically, even if you don't share their values.
Yes.
Like, you don't have to be best friends with these people. I would even say probably at least, let's say like 2 college roommates of mine, I think, I wasn't like the best of friends with, but like they did push me musically to be better. And that's just something that you as just in the music world, like you do need to push yourself to be better.
Yes.
Like, so that's something that, and it doesn't have to be like super cutthroat competitive either. It's just like, you have to find somebody who's going to make you the best version of yourself in the musical sense, kind of thing.
Let me ask you this. So like, I remember like the best band I've ever played in, like for a while I was on like a professional worship team for this mega church in Georgia called Free Chapel. And all of the youth worship team that showed up on Wednesdays were professionals, except for the bass player. They had like a local bass player that was great enough to be on it. But everyone else came in to do the worship services for this youth group midweek kind of a thing. And all of these musicians were, they were pretty much, I think I was pretty much always the worst musician there probably, which was very different because usually I'm probably like the best on the worship team. And this was, oh my goodness, I still remember great things that the drummer did like 20 years later kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I remember like being around these people that are all just at such a high skill level beyond it being really fun. It also like, I really want to push myself to be better now, like in a way that maybe I don't feel pushed on the average worship team. And so I'm kind of like, I'm wondering like, when you're looking for musicians that kind of push you to be better, do they need to play the same instrument, do you think? Or like, tell me more about what it is, or how do you find those musicians that are challenging you and pushing you to be better?
Another great question, Josh, because the answer is no, they don't have to play the same instrument as you. I think that, because I feel like all of music is related. There's a lot of things that you can learn from many different types of music many different styles of music, even from like music around the world or something. Like, so like that's what's so cool is that it kind of informs itself. So it's like you're always learning whenever you hear something new or different.
You can never stop learning. Unless you're Jacob Collier, there is definitely more that you can learn about music.
Yeah. I've heard him described as like the modern day Mozart, I think. So
he's a genius. Everyone look up Jacob Collier. Just look up what he does with like audience choirs. Like he has kind of mastered this ability to get audiences to a cappella, and he can conduct and get them to change like notes and how much to change and harmonizing together. It's incredible. It's ridiculous.
I remember him singing something, and I think it was like G half sharp major or something like that. So I mean,
he does a lot of really weird stuff that like most musicians are like, I didn't know that was possible to kind of do that. But he's like, oh yeah, you can totally.
Yeah. So
apparently it's impossible to play a wrong note if your name is Jacob Collier. But besides that,
especially on the note of finding people that push you, I found that like myself in the conservatory environment, it's like find the best people. Like yes, do find the best people that play your instrument. It's just you probably won't have a personal connection with them.
Yeah. So maybe find those people like on YouTube. Like find like the great keyboardists or viola players or guitarists or whatever.
I also find myself personally, I actually find a lot of inspiration from violin players. So I know that some people would make a big deal about that or something, but it's like I find that what they do, I mean, because their technique is somewhat related to ours. Same with cello. Like I've heard some different things. Like viola's right in the middle, and so our technique, we kind of maybe take some from a little bit from everybody.
Yeah.
For some of the violin techniques, especially, I found that just watching and listening, like that's actually the most important thing as a musician is listening. I mean, it might sound like an overly simplistic statement, but the better that you can listen, like the better musician that you will be. And it's listening to different types of details. It's listening in different degrees. It's like hearing things you may not have ever thought to listen to before. And I think that whenever you hear a really great performer, it's somebody that like strikes you and going, I didn't realize something could sound like that.
Yeah.
And so that sense of discovery and like, how can I sound like that?
Yeah.
What can I do to sound more like that? That's the kind of thing that you just kind of need to prick your own, musical imagination to be able to draw you into that realm. So, I mean, that's something that, and I'm still doing that now. Like, I'm still trying to find what can like sort of prick my, musical imagination. Like, what can I do better? And like, that's something that I think is just really important when you're, in the professional world and auditioning or doing whatever you're doing after school. So, I mean, that's the part that never stops. I think that's the thing you always, kind of need to be doing.
But so while you're in school, one of the things I liked about the initial advice that you had given Ruth was just like, take the time that you're in school, like take that time seriously. Like we talk to pro-lifers that way, but it's like, look, like this is a time to be learning a bunch of different kinds of music, a lot of different songs, like build up a repertoire, like take advantage of this time that you have where you're, potentially like living on campus, just working on your craft. That gets harder to do once you leave college.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
Some ways, especially when you're talking about like just like learning for fun, not learning like the music that you now have to learn for the next gig, but like just like I want to go learn that thing. I've always really liked that song. I've never really been able to scientifically analyze what's going on there. I'm going to learn it now.
Oh, okay. I'm going to push back maybe just a little bit on this because there's a couple things in what you just said, and I hope I'll be able to get to all of them. But one of them is that definitely in the take the time to be able to learn. Like, this is something I talked about with Ruth actually in our discussion that I didn't think of before. And I actually had the same thought when I was like in undergrad, but I was like, is there something wrong with me taking this much time to practice like right now? Because it felt very selfish to me. It was like, okay, I'm going to go lock myself in the practice building like constantly,
right?
And I'm just practicing.
How many hours a day on average were you practicing? Just so some people have a sense of what musicians like you are doing.
It changed. Campus. It changed based on the years. I think for my first couple of years of undergrad, it was about 3 hours a day. I was able to output about 5 by the time I was done with undergrad.
5?
The summer of 2020 was the most. I practiced 8 hours of technique a day. That was the most, and I don't think I could ever do that again. And then in grad school, it was somewhere between 4 to 6, I think. And then now that I'm a professional, it's not quite as much time, but I've hopefully been able to find a way to optimize that. So I'd say professionally now, it's definitely a good day if I can get 2 practice sessions in, and a session probably ranges from an hour to an hour and a half or something like that. So
that's so naturally you're kind of like should I be spending this much time?
Yeah.
Should I be spending 5 to 8 hours practicing, or is this too like self-serving or something like that?
And that was, I thought, a legit thought. And then the thing that was just cool after being able to like kind of look at Ruth and say, well, the reason that you're doing that is you're investing in your sound and in yourself, and and it's not for you. It's like, so that way, in the moment when you need to play a really excellent way, you can. And the part that comes to me is like when I played the music for my grandfather's funeral. It's like that in that moment, like I knew that it had to be good.
Yeah.
And it was. And it's because I put in the practice time to be able to do that. Yeah. Same for another funeral that I play, or even like a wedding sometimes, I play these all the time.
Yep.
But it's like, it's for moments like that you want it to be meaningful.
Yeah.
And it's for these people that you're playing for.
Yeah.
And
it's others oriented. You're wanting to serve them, to give them this great experience, not distract them from the wedding or whatever with mistakes and things like that.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
That's helpful for me to hear.
So, yeah.
I wish I'd heard that a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's good.
So like practicing, especially in undergrad, the other answer to that is you're never going to have this much time again to be able to do this. Like, right now, when I look back in COVID and again, the 8-hour practice, technique days, man, those were grueling and long. I will never again probably be able to put that much time in, even if I wanted to. So
at least this side of heaven. Like, I don't know what music practice is like in heaven. I like to think that we're going to be
we'll just be perfect.
Again.
Yeah.
Well, I like to think that we're not going to be perfect right away.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to keep on working and developing and learning new modes.
Yeah. And things that, all of the information that was lost or something I'm very excited for that.
Think about the jam sessions with instruments from like every century. Yeah.
Oh man. We'll actually know what the Stasimon chorus sounded like. So anyway.
That's a cool idea.
So the one thing that was maybe going to just clarify a little bit is that yes, you can find people that are better than you that are in your school.
Yeah.
Like, and even if they're a different instrument or something, it's like, I'm sure that there's somebody there. Find somebody better than you.
Yeah.
And then like, learn from them in some way. Like that's kind of just what your attitude is when you're in school, is like, how can I learn more?
Yeah.
And especially when you go and listen to recitals, they might be required at your school or something, but go to a lot of concerts, like listen to music that you've never heard before.
Yeah.
Learn to love something and then really explore. This is maybe what you were saying before of like, you can like explore something that you really wanted to before. Like there is space for that.
Yeah.
But also there is some times you're going to need to do stuff that you don't want to do, which is your teacher saying, yes, you must practice your scales and you've got to do this Shadiak exercise. And it's like, you're not going to want to do that, but you should do that. And like, that is the time.
You're describing all of my piano lessons.
Yeah.
All 12 years of my piano lessons was basically, that was my teacher wanting me to practice and me wanting to do my own thing in spite of that.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were good enough at doing your own thing that you made something else of that.
Fairly rawly good, but I shouldn't have been that good. I should have had to practice more. And I would have been a lot better if I actually had practiced more.
Yeah. I've heard some people say something like that. So yes, you do need to practice, especially your scales. Like I will say, like that is something that it's like there's some differing opinions on that, but you need to be practicing technique, especially like in undergrad. I think that's maybe the one. I don't know, like kind of looking back if I did something differently, and I think I was better about it towards the end of undergrad, but it's like I really got I had to catch up on a lot of my technical foundation when I was in grad school.
Yeah.
And that's something that it's like, you really have to have that, because it's just functionally when you're in the professional world and you're thrown something that is really hard and you only have a couple of days to learn it.
Yep.
If you know your scales and your technique and stuff, that's going to help you be able to like piece something together.
Yeah.
In just those couple of days, as opposed to like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
Like,
You'll have everything that you need if you just have the time to sit down and put all this together and learn it and practice it.
Yeah.
Any final tips about the college life that you want to give before we move on to post-college professional music time?
Sure. Yeah. There's actually maybe one word of caution, because I think that it's like, we approached the question with it. It's like, oh man, I don't know about this. Like it was a little bit like doomsday worrying about it. And there is one thing to watch out for. Again, I'm not saying that this is going to be like something that is catastrophic and terrible, but like something to be aware of is that, again, the reason that you're going to music school is to be able to improve your abilities at your instrument. The person that's going to have the most influence on that is your private teacher. So I will say that it's like, if there's anything that you feel like that your teacher isn't like helping you, or if you like, if it's just not a good fit or a good match, then that might be a reason to consider looking elsewhere, is because usually you go to music school specifically, or, I know at least in the orchestral world, for the teacher. And so that's something that
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. So that's the whole reason that you're at that particular school.
Meaning, okay, so this is a clarification question. There's more details than people really need, but now I'm curious. So does that mean it doesn't mean that everyone in that orchestra is kind of like, oh, I like that conductor. Do you mean that St. Olaf had a particular viola teacher that you wanted to take from, and then that's going to be the case with all the other instruments too, that the people that chose, they're like, I know there's this really good, this amazing cello teacher here, so I'm picking St. Olaf for that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that mindset for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say college conductors that it's great if they have a good conductor, but that really shouldn't be your consideration for looking somewhere. Even an orchestra that has an amazing conductor or something. If there's a job and there's an opening, you kind of need to have the mindset of yes, I'm going to audition for that job. Is kind of what it is, unless it's I'm sorry, but I'm not going to audition in Toledo. So, I mean, that's an orchestra that I will probably not audition for, but,
So it would be a bummer to be I know I want to take from this teacher, and then get to that college and you're starting, and then it's not working out. For some reason, there's some kind of a major personality conflict, or it just seems like they're not able to help you the way that you thought. You're saying being just like people ought to be with therapists, be willing to keep looking for that person that's going to be a great match for you.
Oh, and this is actually good advice if you're in high school or something like that. Usually you take that period to go to summer festivals, and summer camps are great ways to get exposure to those teachers.
Oh,
so that's usually the reason to go to a summer camp, is to just to be basically find a trial run or a way to get introduced to a certain teacher. And then usually before you go to a college, you would audition there and probably take a trial lesson with them. So that way you're getting more data points on how they teach, and also, is this a good fit? So hopefully you'd have some way to figure that out a little bit beforehand. So that's kind of ideally how you would try to do it. But especially if things aren't working, I know some people that have, switched schools to a different teacher or something like that. If it's just not working, some of that depends on if they have space in their studio for people or something like that. But that's something that it really is based on the teacher. So I'd say if that's not going well, that would be the cause to transfer. I would say that those are grounds for perhaps needing to transfer or change something. I would not attribute that to, oh, well, maybe it'll be a hostile environment, or maybe the orchestra's not super good.
It's not about the pro-life thing.
I don't like how they smell. all of that stuff. It's it's just it really should be on how good your teacher is.
Yeah.
The other neat thing was when I was talking to Ruth, it sounds like she kind of has this cool sort of situation going on, that she could actually tell that there was actually two teachers at her school. That sometimes helps, is if there's another teacher at your school that teaches the same instrument, maybe they're a better fit. That's probably a good place to look.
Yeah.
Just so that we don't have to uproot yourself and go somewhere else. So that might be helpful. And she actually found that this was neat. I also was very impressed just with Ruth, because I felt like she had a lot of the same discoveries that I did, but she was having them earlier. So I was good for you.
That's perfect. No, I've got colleagues like that too. They're okay, you've been dealing with this thing 6 months before me. Now I can learn from you. This is very helpful. Thank you.
So, but she was able to transition from I think that one of her primary teacher was very focused on a lot of the musical details, and then the second teacher was more focused on the technical details, and she knew that she needed to improve her technique. So she actually started taking lessons, I think, from both of them, and might be leaning a little bit more towards the second teacher. So I was just very impressed with her foresight there, because that's definitely something that you need to know about yourself and your playing, and being able to do that. That kind of mirrors my teacher experience a little bit too. The reason I had my teacher at St. Olaf is that, he has an amazing sound. And that's the takeaway that everybody has about him and all of his students, is that the tone and the sound that he has is just really there's more depth to it, I think, than most people. And then, my grad school teacher was very much focused on technique and kind of drilling that into me, which I really needed. So that was something that I'm currently kind of melding those two things together. And hopefully my high school students that I coach are benefiting a lot from that, because there was a lot of thought that went into the whole, technique and formation. So I don't know if they realize what they're getting, but hopefully it's something good. So,
all right. So those are some really helpful tips for in college. So then once they've graduated and they are continuing to do professional music, What have you learned? How long ago did you graduate and kind of start doing professional music outside of college?
Yeah, so actually, we're coming up on 3 years.
Nice. Congrats.
Well, thanks. Yeah, being out of school for 3 years.
Does not feel like it's been 3 years.
Yeah, and that's how long I've been at ERI too. So that's the surreal part. So we're coming up. It's
really
like, I think June 22nd, I think is
nice.
like my
your anniversary is coming up.
Anniversary. So
Congrats.
yeah. Excited about that.
So it's been 3 years. So you've had 3 years to kind of try to figure out how to do professional music post-college while doing professional pro-life work. What have you learned?
Yeah, and actually, this I'd like to get into, especially, this is very orchestra specific. And this is something that I also told Ruth, is that the professional orchestra audition, it's like those words, should strike fear into you or maybe do. This is the process that usually when you want to be in orchestra after school, you have to audition somewhere. And the audition process is kind of a whole topic in and of itself. That would take a very long time to unpack. But the main takeaway is that the thing that I was telling Ruth is that I even asked her, I was like, okay, so just lay it out for me. What do you want to do after school? And she said, I want to be a trumpet player in an orchestra. I was like, great. I know how to answer that question. Yeah. And the answer to that is that it really is based on the audition, is how you get that job.
Wow.
And so it's the good part about that is that you don't have to worry about, your pro-life identity messing up your chances for that job, because you're behind a screen whenever you go and play for people.
Right.
And you submit basically the way that this happens. And I'm still doing this nowadays. My dream is to win the full-time, professional symphony orchestra job. And don't worry, I've been told that you will still have time left over to be able to do other things. So there's not a danger of me leaving ERI because of that, which I know some people listening to this might, be a little concerned about.
Terrified right now.
So,
do not leave.
Yeah. But that whole process is the audition. And that's actually, I'm doing that right now. So as I was talking to Ruth, I'm like, I can share with you a lot of, personal experience from this because I'm doing it right now. But the way it works is you submit your resume that has all your degrees and recitals and summer festivals and other stuff on there. You submit that. And then usually that, they email you back and say, yes, you were invited to audition. You go there and then you play in front of a screen for about 10 minutes. And then they tell you if you advance or not. And then you play the whole audition. And then if you happen to win, they take the screen down and then you go and you shake their hand and then you start working for them. And then it's you go and you do your job. And it's like if you play in the section and you play in tune and you play in time and, you don't mess anything up with the sound, then, congratulations, you're tenured there. So it's a very specific and outlined way to be able to do that job. And there's nothing about being pro-life that is going to jeopardize your chances on achieving that job.
Because you're behind a screen.
Yeah.
They don't know. They haven't gone through your social media ahead of time before this audition.
No, because they don't care.
Yeah.
And especially at the major auditions, there's hundreds of people that are coming. Yeah. And if you can't play in tune, they're not going to really spend any time looking at you or anything about you other than what number you are when you go on stage. So
no, I'm glad you said that, because that might sound obvious to you, but I bet there's a lot of pro-lifers that would have just kind of assumed that they're going to not do as well in auditions just for having pro-life stuff on their social media. This is good information for people to have.
So you live and die by this audition, basically. Is the way
as
to
it
kind
probably
of
ought to be, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be about how you look or all of your experience or all these different things. It ought to be about the performance in the end, right? So
yeah. Anyway, that's kind of the front doorway into the orchestra job. But I think the other thing that might be a little bit more relevant is what about the other stuff? Because if you're asked to sub for an orchestra or you do other types of musical things afterwards.
Weddings, funerals, things like that.
Actually, this is probably a good time to bring up that I actually have a church music job as well. So
nice.
That's something that I'm able to play strings for every week. So
can you do the thing where you can improvise just along or do they give you the lead sheets or sheet music to play along with in church?
All of the above. This particular church, it's Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church in Denver. So yeah, they've given me all sorts of things. And they're basically if it sounds good, then it's good to us kind of thing. And I'd actually started playing, I can't think of quite the right word, but I was starting to do this kind of on the side when I was in grad school and when I was home for COVID. And I played with another musician and was just kind of feeling things out and trying some different stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got a little bit more comfortable with like playing stuff that was a little bit off the script and not quite, written exactly as it was. And I mean, that just playing at Lord's has helped like continue that. And it's more of like now they just kind of have to give me, the chords, and then I could be able to play off of it. So
see, that is so cool because I got to lead worship in Belgium one time at this church. There's like this international church. There were 5 languages spoken there, or no, well, 6 technically, because there were 5 translators up in the booth with the microphones, and everyone got headsets as they came in, and they're translating to like French and German, and I remember Farsi was one of them because I was like, Farsi, yeah, wow. Like that, yeah. So I remember we're leading worship. And it was all of us from this missionary team, except their local, I don't know if it was a violin or a viola, I'm sorry. But whatever it was, he was so good. He could just do that thing like on if anyone's like, this is showing my age, but like the old Michael W. Smith worship albums, like he had this violinist that could just play these soaring melodies and harmonize and things. And it was just like that. It was so good. So anyone that can do that, boy, the times we've been able to do worship music with stringed players who can like just improvise and just add kind of lines and things between the lines. Oh, it's just some of the, it's the best.
Well, that's my job there, is to just make everybody else sound better. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. So, but the reason I also brought this up to Ruth, like this particular job, because it was like when I was in school, I wouldn't have thought that could be a job that I could have. Like I would have been like, okay, there's the orchestra job, and I don't know what else is going to come up. But there's something to be said for being able to like network and also like find people that basically need, for me, in my case, string players, and even like at Lord's, that's kind of where I've expanded a little bit. Like I'm like, yes, I play viola there, but like I'm kind of referred to as like strings. Like if people ask me if I can play violin for their wedding, I say yes. No one's complained about that so far, because I think what they actually mean is, can you play strings at my wedding? So just
can you play canon in D and stuff like that? Really
that
pretty,
so many
like
times.
Yes.
Okay, quick tip, just for that particular piece, because it's so long. Okay, if you're just listening and you're about to get married, like free advice here. I would advise you to put that song for the entrance of the family instead of the entrance of the bride.
Yes.
Yeah, because you can actually hear the whole thing, and it's like long enough that you could probably get everybody else in.
Yes.
And then pick something else that you really like for the bridal entrance. Of course, do with that as you will, but like I was just thinking that's probably a better pairing of all of that.
Yep. Some of the really unique things in canon and D kind of happen in that last third, and a lot of times, you don't get to that if it's just like the bridal march.
And you have to skip like the middle 3 lines because it doesn't build up to the part that everybody wants to hear. So
my trick, like playing piano weddings, when I'm having to do canon and D, is like I just like get to like the biggest, like what are the parts that the lines that people remember the most, and it's like if I don't at some point do da 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 da, if I don't do that, like it's not cool.
Well,
like I can't just like do the diamonds in the beginning.
That's what I do. Is that it's
diamonds.
the first 8 bars, so that way you get the actual bass line.
Right.
Then you play like 2 transitional bars. Then you cut to that, what you just sang, and then you have to stop because she's at the altar.
Exactly.
And then, so to avoid all of this behind the scenes stuff.
The beginning and the end and nothing in the middle.
Yeah. So, I just think it's better if you do that. So anyway,
good tip.
There you go. Pro tip.
Good tip.
Right there. But I think getting back to what I was saying is that I was telling Ruth that it's like, I was able to, find this opportunity that I didn't think existed, but it's something that shares my values, and it's something that there's a need there for the talent that I have. And I think that's my biggest answer or response to like, well, what about like, is there space for pro-life musicians? The answer is yes. Like, the thing is that just art in general is like, I think a very undefined thing, except it's your job to define it, and it's your job to create something. So it's like, and you'll probably be doing many different things, as a musician. Like I am doing many different things right now as a musician, but it's definitely possible to create art, and like, especially from music, and do it in a way that is contributing to the pro-life cause. Yeah. And so that's it's what's scary about it, because it's undefined, but it's also what is amazing about it is that it's like your job as a musician to figure out how you are going to say that as a musician. Yeah. So I actually have a project in mind after winning this orchestra audition that I'm really been preparing for, there's a couple of projects that I want to do after that. One of them is to record Rode's 24 Caprices for violin on viola. No one else has done that, so I'm hoping to be the first.
That's cool.
And then there's another pro-life project that I have specifically that I'm going to keep a little bit secret at the moment, but I just at least want to say that it's a compositional project and it's a pro-life project, specifically in the musical realm. So that's something that it's like I've been keeping this at the back of my mind, and I'm just trying to file away certain things for, again, the compositional project as I'm writing it. And it's something that I think will probably take, many years to be able to develop and such. But like, I do have that in mind, and I know that that's what I want to contribute to the movement, and also just sort of as a piece of music. And I really do want this piece. I could say this about the piece, but it's like I want it to embody what I've been doing both at ERI and also in college, and I guess just whatever will happen between now and the time that it is, published and performed. But I want it to be very like wholesome and just have all of the many different, emotions and other things in there that really just give a better and clearer picture, I think, as to, what it means to be pro-life. So that's in the future, kind of, a bit distant there. But that's definitely something that I've thought about as far as like, what can I contribute as a pro-life, musician specifically. So that was my advice to Ruth as well. It's like, I don't know what it means to be a pro-life trumpet player, and you might not right now either, but you're going to figure it out. And like, that's what's exciting about it.
I mean, ironically, I can actually think of one thing. So back in Georgia, when I used to work for Georgia Right to Life way back when, we would have the March for Life that would happen in front of, like, that started from the Atlanta state capitol. We'd have like 5,000 or 10,000 people there, and we'd have like most, we'd have like a ceremony and like speeches and stuff like that. But then people would do the march. They do this kind of pre-mapped out route. In Georgia, we had a unique thing that I've never seen done anywhere else. I don't know if they came up with this idea. It certainly wasn't my idea. This was going on before, and then I just stepped into this and kind of kept it going. But we would ahead of time get volunteer trumpet players and buglers to set up along the route and be playing taps.
Oh, wow.
The entire time while we were doing it. So we'd have like 20, 25 trumpet players, and like I had have coordinated with them as, okay, you're at this corner, you're at this corner kind of a thing. And then that kind of thing is going on. It was a really cool addition. I liked it. If you're a trumpet player, maybe suggest to whoever is your closest, Walk for Life. I don't know if you've ever done this, but have you ever thought about having taps happen? Because I'd be willing to help with that. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah. I was totally unaware of that. Cool. Yeah.
Assuming that's not inappropriate. I don't know if there's I assume that's not inappropriate from a military perspective or something like that. I don't know what all the military laws and regulations are and stuff like that. I'm just assuming that's fine. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. But I think it's stuff like that. It's like things that it's like you say that I had no idea it existed, but yet there you go. There's like an opportunity right there.
Yeah, right.
And that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. It's like finding opportunities that you didn't know existed. The other thing that actually came to mind that I also wanted to share with another reason that kind of connects the why you should be focusing on improving your abilities as a musician in college is because of something that I was told at a Peabody masterclass. It was actually from a trumpet player. I forget which orchestra he was a part of. But I know he really likes golf. That's the only other thing that I took away from this guy.
You know who you are.
Yeah. But he also said, there's room for you at the top. And that was just an interesting line because he said, when I first heard that, I was like, what do you mean? It's so hard to get a job. It's super competitive and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then he's like, oh, but he meant that it's if you really stand out as somebody who's exceptional at what you do, you're going to get work. As a musician. And I've actually found that to be true, in Colorado Springs. I feel like there's some times that, again, I get random emails from these random people that want me to play for this random thing.
Wow.
And the reason is because I was recommended to them by somebody else because they said, oh, you're really,
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
It's slow that way, that word of mouth way, but yeah.
But I would say that it's and even... I knew this was going to come up at some point in time when podcasting, but I just read this book, and it's a fictional book, but I thought that it really inspired me a lot. Anyway, this book, it just came out this year. It's called The Breath of the Dragon, and it's basically taking some of Bruce Lee's philosophy and kind of putting it into this fictional book. Okay. But it was really cool because there's a moment in this book where, there's the main character is describing like why he wants to win, this, martial arts tournament. And when he was describing it to somebody who was like basically trying to like, bribe him, he said, he's like, I want to win this tournament to show that I am the best warrior. And I've aspired my whole life to do this. And there's nothing that you can offer me that is going to be greater than that thing.
Wow.
And so I was just thinking about that, especially in terms of auditions, is that it's like, well, why do you want to go and aspire to win this audition? And I think the answer is like, because I want to be the best that I can be. I think that having that mindset whenever you like are practicing and performing and preparing for something, I just found that there was a lot of inspiration from that particular book. And so that's something that I've just felt a lot of reinvigoration when, approaching excerpts and other things, even if I've played this excerpt, hundreds of times or something, I'm like, no, I want to be the best musician that I can be. And so that's something that, aspiring to be your best is something that I think is another thing just to keep in mind.
Yeah. Okay. We're almost out of time. Final tip. What's your final tip for people?
Sure. And actually, this is a very practical thing that I have, is that especially, this was something I was talking with Ruth about, is that practically, like, especially if you're looking to maybe be employed in the pro-life movement, like I can say from personal experience, it's really nice to have a non-musical job and then also try to figure out all the music stuff afterwards, because it's not a linear path to really achieve, especially the orchestra job. So, practically I would say it's better for you than maybe some of the other people that might be, like having a piercing glance at you, that it's like, well, actually, if you have employment set up, especially if it's part-time, like that really helps being able to support yourself, but also, be able to pursue your career musically. So
that's really great. Joshua, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on. This is, you went so above and beyond what I was expecting when I first roped you into this thing. And I love it. I just think this was very practical, very helpful, and I would not have known most of these things. So, Trent Horn, I hope that you are satisfied and you find this listener question thoroughly answered. Good job, Joshua.
All right, thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Equipped for Life podcast, a project of Equal Rights Institute. Equal Rights Institute uses speaking, writing, YouTube videos, podcasts, online courses, and campus outreach to help pro-life advocates in the areas of practical dialogue tips, relational apologetics, pro-life philosophy, and sidewalk counseling. If you've been helped by this podcast, please consider supporting it by making a donation at equalrightsinstitute.com.